Not so many midges around now. Getting on for the middle of September. Right, ladies and gents, a little bit of a different thing tonight. Well, today, well, it will be tonight. A while back, I was given a little cheapo, probably cost about £1, £2, foil survival shelter, and also, just to see what it was like, I got myself a foil sleeping bag. They're meant to sort of reflect heat and all that. There's proper well-made stuff on the market that is designed to keep you warm if you're cold. You know, you see them, people who cool down quick, athletes and all that sort of stuff. They wrap silver foil around themselves, and there's lots of cheap versions on the market, needless to say, with the Made in China logo, so you never expect much with them. But I've got myself a shelter, and that was it. So I'm just outside town, and I'm going to give this a try. Now, the whole point of these, it says there, emergency shelter. So in theory, there's the other one, a bright orange emergency bag, all weather, allegedly. We're not expecting snowstorms tonight or sub-zero temperatures, so this is just the principle of it. I thought what I'd do is I'm going to give these a go. And I'm just outside town, and there's a little something I want to add into this, because when this is erected, it's going to be pretty obvious, or so one would think. Now, where I am at the moment, despite the fact that this is going to stick out like a sore thumb, this is going to be pretty much a sort of stealth camp. Now, just above me here, I'll just turn the camera around there actually, you can see that there, is the A5 trunk road, major road, very very busy. It's a Saturday today, and all the tourists are coming into North Wales, and that road's been really busy all day. And I'll just put this tripod back down so I can scare you all at my face. The footway, the pavement just beyond that wall up there, probably sees 2 or 3 people a week walking along it. There's lots of cyclists use the road, but they can't quite see down here. It's all line of sight. I'm going to bring this up later, but I'm actually going to, when I erect this, if someone was walking past, you would expect them to see this quite easily. And what I'm sort of going to demonstrate as well is how blind ordinary people usually are. People going about the daily business, they don't see anything. Humans in the 21st century are pretty crap at spotting things, even when things are moving in front of them. They just don't see them. And if you're a stealth camper, of course, you like to camp out quite close to people, and the trick is not to be seen and remain undiscovered. And to a point, although I'm going to set up the survival shelter, this will also be a bit of a stealth camp. Now, I've brought nothing with me. I'm just going to set this triangular shaped setup. I've got some rope with me. I'm going to put this in. I've got my camo jacket for the pillow. This is all I've got on, just a t-shirt and this. And it's going to be very uncomfortable, but I'm going to spend the night in it. And in the morning, I have brought a little stove. I'm not going to light a fire, but I've brought a little stove, and I'm going to have a brew up in the morning. I brought a few biscuits to nibble on, but that's pretty much it. It's as though I was caught out and it was an emergency. That's the simulation. So what I've got here, I'm just going to move this tripod here. See that back there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a string as the centre line from this log here around, and I'm going to tie it to that tree there, probably about 15 feet, and midway along it on the ground here is going to be where the bottom of this shelter will be. I was talking about being stealthy. You've got the road up there with the wall there. there's a lot of foliage between that wall and where I am, and that means of course that people just walking along the road, it's where the human psychology comes into it. They won't necessarily look down here because the pavement's narrow and it's a busy road, and they'll be looking at their feet and looking at the traffic coming behind them and towards them. So there's a tendency to look forward and backwards before anyone will ever look down here. Now then, if I just go here, again it's all part of it. Got here the river down there, and a little bit further near to the edge there's a bank down there, a little bit of a cliff, probably 30 feet down to the water. So you've got nothing to worry about from people that side, and in the trees across the river there's a path and another main road. It's a very narrow part of a valley here. There's another main road over there, and between the road and the river there's a footpath there which a few dog walkers use, and it's used a lot more than the pavement is behind me. But of course, if someone was walking over there, the chances of them seeing this setup's almost nil because of the foliage, and psychologically they won't look over because they know the river's there, and there's probably not much point in trying to peer through the trees across the river to see just more trees. There's nothing that's going to catch their eye. So I'll just pan back up there like that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to set this up as best I can, and when it gets a bit darker, it's about 6:45 now, it's going to be dark, well dark by 9. When it's dark, I'll sort of make efforts to try and get some sleep, but I'm just going to be literally sleeping on the bottom of this as though we're being caught out. I'll have the noise of the odd vehicle going on the road as well, and there's the noise of the river. That's quite loud, and you'll hear it more when the traffic dies down as well. So we'll press on and see what happens. Right, this is what I've got so far. I'll get a better angle actually. I've got this shelter set up in a crude triangular shape. I've thrown it up in exactly the same way as you might do in an emergency. You haven't got time to be all pretty about things, but you've got to make it as best you can. And see, it's hardly reflective. You'd have to be blind not to be able to see that if you're walking past within 30 yards, but believe me, some people will not see that at all. I'll just go along here. When I opened it, I actually found this, typical Chinese, basically useless, as if that's going to hold this up in a strong wind, you know. And clearly they don't have strong winds in China. But I brought some this ordinary rope you get for a pound land or somewhere like that, and I've used some of that rope to push out the sides. So you've got this crude triangular shelter. The whole point of it is just to keep the rain off you if it's drizzling down and you're cold and perhaps you're already wet. You just don't want to get any worse. And the point of that tin foil, of course, is that the foil is that it'll reflect any heat which your body might expend. Of course, when you shiver, that's your body trying to warm itself. So I'm going to pull out the this little similar type sleeping bag now and see what that's like. As I say, I'll have it wrapped around me later. I was actually quite surprised when I just pulled this out of the packet, because this is actually a lot thicker than the foil shelter, and it's even got tapes along the seams. This is actually quite durable. As you can see, it's reflective foil on the inside and bright orange on the outside. Well, that's obviously if you haven't even got a shelter, you can wrap this around you. And if you've got a helicopter or something, or search and rescue looking for you, you're going to stick out a bit more so they can find you. But yeah, I was quite surprised about that. I'm 6 feet tall, and this is about 7 feet. So that's not too bad at all, that actually. Of course, this time of year, you're very likely to wake up in the morning with soaking wet anyway through condensation. There's no way this isn't going to condensate. Yeah, I'm quite surprised with that. So I'd rate this as a sleeping bag higher than I would rate the shelter at the moment. So anyway, I'm going to put this in the shelter and see what it looks like. Yeah, it's a nice snug fit, that. Of course, what I'm going to do in a minute is get into it just to test it out. It might look a bit crude and tatty. I'm not the first person to put this sort of stuff on YouTube. There's lots of other videos of exactly the same thing, trying out these particular shelters. But one thing I've noticed about them all, they're all staged, but just like this one is really. But I think mine's a bit more realistic, because if you look at the stage ones, they're in near perfect conditions, perfect ground, nice and flat. The person who's presented it to the camera has spent a long time getting the rope nice and getting it nice and taut, so it's picture perfect. Of course, in a real life survival situation, you don't have that luxury. You've just got to get it up, do it as best you can, and get in it, and wait till the weather improves or you get rescued. And I do find that with some of the uploads on YouTube, as good as they are and as informative as they are, because the information doesn't change, but the presentation's not always realistic. When they present you with a perfect triangular structure, and I've got logs here and leaves and all sorts over the place, you tend to find these things like, you know, on a perfectly piece of manicured ground, and it's just not like that in real life. So back myself in here. I just had a coffin fit when I got in there. I think I kicked up a bit of the peaty soil and breathed it in, and just got in the back of my throat. It's not very comfortable at all. The one thing I would miss would be a pillow, and the plan is to use my jacket, my camouflage jacket, as a crew pillow. But me being 6 feet tall, and this thing being about 7 to 8 feet long, something like that, it's not quite long enough really to get any decent protection from rain, for instance, as this wouldn't last long in a gale. To get any longer term protection from rain, you need something in the region of 10 or 12 feet long, so that you 2 or 3 feet from either end when you're inside. Maybe that's something people could market in the future, a much bigger one. Failing that, you could always put 2 together. While I was in there, I got in that sleeping bag and it instantly got hot, and it won't take long to get damp in that with condensation, no question about that. When I was in there then, just for the few seconds I was in there, it gave me an idea, because if you were in certain types of terrain, you could actually put that against a wall or some sort of little small rock face or something like that, some sort of bank, and make a shelter that way and crawl inside like a bivvy. That would probably work better than that setup. You could anchor it down with rocks on the bottom and rocks on the top. It would probably offer a bit more shelter, to be honest. So maybe that's something I might try in the future. Get up in the hills where the dry stone walls are, and use a wall as a back shelter, and this is the front cover. But, yeah, I'm quite pleased about it actually. It's better than I expected, but as I say, it's extremely fragile. Another thing I just noticed as well, when I was inside, that looks all silvered, but when I was inside, all these trees around me, all the leaves, I could see them perfectly. So this, you can actually see through that. So it's like a two-way mirror. So I didn't expect that, so that's a little bit of a surprise. So it's going to be dark soon. It's about 7:30 I think now. Didn't take long to put up. So I'm going to potter about for a bit, and when it gets dark I'll get myself into it, and we'll see what tonight brings. Well, it's 10 to 10 at the moment, so I just think it's time to tuck in and try this out. It's quite dark. I say quite dark. There's been a moon up tonight. It's actually disappearing over the rise there. It's been quite high all night, and quite interestingly, as I mentioned earlier, when I was inside this shelter, I could see the leaves outside in the sunlight and the branches, that sort of stuff. And the same was true with the moonlight. I could actually see some of the branches and leaves above me. I'm just outside the shelter now, and there's still a bit light from the moon actually. I can just about make out the water on the river, and even the trees just across the river. Although it's how's it now? 4:15 in the morning. Terrible sleep. It'd be okay, I think, if you had a little mattress underneath you, foam mattress or something, an inflatable one. But the whole point of the exercise is not to have something like that. So my back will pay for this in a few hours' time, I think. It's very uncomfortable. Just doze off for a few minutes, sleep. I woke myself up snoring a couple of times, and it's in my jacket. I've just put it on. It's a bit chilly now. That was my pillow. I was quite correct. I am a bit damp. The heat soon builds up inside that foil sleeping bag. But while I'm outside now, vehicle going past up there. Not a clue I'm here. I'm just going to switch my torch on and show how reflective this is. Yeah. Like something you say at Christmas. We've been having a ruffled surface, being unpacked and put up. It's all these little ripples on the surface, and they've been quite reflective. Yeah. Anyway, it'll start to get light in a couple of hours. No, less than that. Should be appreciably light by 6 o'clock. So I'll just have another doze now and see what there is to see, as it were, in slumberland. I've just decided to leave a little torchlight on inside that. I mentioned earlier about the being able to see through this foil. It's like a two-way mirror. See out but not in. And with that strong light there, that's actually, I can see that torch and the structures of the torch from its own light. Won't pick up very well here, I don't think. I'll just zoom in a bit. Yeah, you see the floor of the shelter lit up there just in front of the torch. Just one of those very small torches, LED lights. Yeah, that was surprising. That I had no inclination that this thing would be see-through from the inside. Again, that's what it looks like from the inside with the torch. Looking straight in there. It's 5:45 now. 5:45 AM. Can't believe how uncomfortable this is. Well, of course, if I was worried about my life, I wouldn't be bothered about that. Having tried this out now, I much prefer the idea of using it as a lean-to shelter, a bivvy or something like that. It was the only bit of protection I had. You make a bivvy against a wall or a rock or a log or something. You can use basically any material that's waterproof, of course. Bit of a tar, plastic sheeting. Of course, Bushcraft, just bend down. Bushcraft, Bushcraft. Bloody hell. Bushcraft enthusiasts. Some of them just like to be like purists. Everything's got to be made from natural materials. You know, if you want a bit of string, use some nettles or brambles or something. A bit of old man's beard, that sort of stuff. Climbers. And you know, you want to make a bed, you gotta have a saw handy, make yourself a nice platform. Just all natural materials. But of course, that's in an ideal world. If you were in some sort of apocalyptic scene, you would use whatever materials were to hand, natural or man-made. I noticed that a few years ago that Bear Grylls guy, he had a TV series, I think it was called The Island or something like that. Did it for a few years. It was okay before he started making it politically correct. And choosing contestants to just give entertaining TV, really. And he used to put them on tropical islands. And of course, there isn't a tropical island in the world now that hasn't got a strand line on the beach covered in man-made junk, bits of fishing net, plastic bottles, all sorts of junk. Anything from a toothpick to a broken pair of hair tongs, hair curlers, hair straighteners. And that's what he does. He tells them, use whatever's to hand. That's survivalism. Exploit whatever materials are available. Bushcraft is fine. It's you can't hide in the woods forever. It's just not possible if there's some sort of apocalyptic breakdown. It's all right knowing the skills, but you just will not survive in the sort of idyllic sense that Bushcraft projects. Great to know, brilliant skills, all that. Fire lighting, all your Swedish torches and your fire pits and all that, like, brilliant. But if your life was dependent on it, you'd have to exploit anything that was available. And if that meant keeping dry and warm, and you had to get under a plastic sheet to do it, then you get under a plastic sheet. Leaf shelters simply don't cut it, except for, well, certainly in the northern hemisphere we have wet weather and that, you know. You see grass thatched mud huts in places like Africa and that. It suits the environment. It's something these people there have developed over hundreds of thousands of years, and it suits the purpose fine. Cool when it's hot, and hot when it's cold of a night. And contrary to popular belief, hot countries like Africa can actually be very, very cold of a night. Most deserts plummet below zero in the night time. Yeah, so this would be much more suited for a shelter, I think, against the wall. Failing that, my only real criticism of it, as I said earlier, I'm 6 feet tall, and this is only about 7-8 feet long, and I'm lying there and I only have to turn my head and I'm looking out the back end and looking at the stars. This shelter, you'd really need 2 taped together, or anyone manufacturing them needs to stop thinking about the average size of a person being some sort of midget. I think most people are about 5'6", something like that, guessing there, but I think it's about that. You want to be well away from the entrances, so I think you're looking at something along the lines of at least 10 feet and preferably 15 feet. It'd be ideal then. I recently camped out in a big drainage pipe in a forest. Similar sort of principle really. It was a round shelter as opposed to a triangular foil one. And yeah, it was very dry, very warm, just like that was. But I have a sleeping bag in that, and I didn't get sort of condensated and damp like I am now. So yeah, I think in some cases it'd be much more comfortable to have a sleep where you just sort of got your back leaning on a log or something, a tree stump, and just cover yourself with this. Wrap yourself up in a sleeping bag, wrap yourself up in the shelter, and just sit there and sort of sleep like some of these people you see having the siestas in hot countries. Yeah, ideal in that respect. Well, it's getting on for 6 o'clock now, so I think so. Another 30 minutes, I'll get the stove out and have a brew up. It's getting on for 6:30 now. Morning is broken, and a few more vehicles turning up on the road above now. Not much of a dawn chorus at this time of year, but a few more pigeons cooing, and one of the first birds to stir at this time of morning is always the wren, and there's 2 or 3 of them around here clicking away in the brambles. Turn this around here. Let's see if there's enough light to do this. Yeah, it's the river down there flowing away. Always in the background all night there. I once made the mistake of going to my favourite spot. I have a favourite spot to camp up on there, Mulvamai, in the Clwydians, in the hills there, and spot I've camped at for years. And I always camp within 20 feet, 25 feet of a little stream to get me drinking water from. And in the summer, the place is covered in bracken. And even though you're quite close to this little stream, you don't really hear it that much. I did a winter camp, and everything was died back. I think it was in February, something like that. I pitched my tent in exactly the same spot. I made a big mistake. The bracken actually shielded the noise of this little stream, and when it wasn't there in the winter, it was uncomfortably loud. I was really nice and warm, tucked away, just nice. The only thing that bothered me all night was the sound of this running water, just a few feet away. So that's something at the time I didn't appreciate. But Bracken was a really good definite of the sound. Yes, I'm just going to make a brew up. There's a little stove there, and zoom in there. Yeah. Let's get that going now. Milk and water already mixed, so you don't have to worry with two separate containers. Awesome. First brew of the day. Nice strong tea. Bloody hot and all. Well, almost time to break camp, as it were. Should only take about 5 minutes to tidy all this up. Not like putting a tent away. So get on with that, I think. Finish my tea, and I'll be on my way. Pretty interesting experiment. Learned a few things. And it's also given me a few ideas for the future as well. So watch this space. Anyway, until next time, have fun.